guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking all about how to post consistently on Instagram and exactly how you can come up with ideas, the best ideas for scheduling out your content and creating posting schedules and actually creating the content and what that looks like. And really, we're going to talk about, I think, the 5 main issues or things that hold us back from actually posting consistently on Instagram. And you'll notice I say posting consistently because posting every day is just, it's a myth that that's something you have to do in order to grow on Instagram. Posting consistently over time is what's really more important. The first thing that I think really holds us back from being able to post consistently is simply not having enough ideas for content. And you might not be in this boat, and if that's the case, skip ahead a couple minutes and go on to the next point. But I think a lot of us are really struggling with either not feeling like our ideas are good enough or not having any ideas in the first place that are actually going to be impactful for our brand and actually trying to grow our Instagram account. Like, we don't want to just post anything, right? We want to make sure that it's actually going to grow our brand, our niche on Instagram. And so here are some things I like to think about when it comes to coming up with ideas and making sure that they're great ideas and where I'm getting ideas from. So first one is thinking about what problems or pain points do my ideal client have? So this goes back to even just having a really solid brand in place and making sure that you know what your brand is, who you're trying to serve, who your ideal client is. If you don't know those things, it's actually going to make a lot of things on Instagram really difficult for you. So you want to make sure that you have those things in place. So if you've done any sort of like ideal client exercise, ideal follower exercise, ideal client avatar, all of those are essentially the same thing. And you probably at some point had to answer the question of what are the problems that they have, what are pain points they have, what are the struggles that they have, and then how can you help come in and solve those things, right? And so really addressing those things to your ideal follower is really going to help you to come up with so many ideas on things that you could share. Something else that I like to think about is what has worked well on my account in the past. Now, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel every single time, how can I look at the content that I've already made in the past and see how it has performed and see what has performed well and how I can do more of that in the future, whether it's a certain topic idea or even a certain like visual style format of the content that I'm creating. What can I do more of in the future and maybe tweak and experiment and change? That kind of leads me to my next thing that I think is really important to keep in mind that goes hand in hand with this is it means you've got to experiment. I think sometimes we can put ourselves too in a box that we have to fit into on our Instagram account and feel like that we can only do these certain ideas or this certain type of content or, oh, like I know that that content's working well on Instagram right now, but I don't want to do that. That feels a little out of my comfort zone. I'm not going to go for it. When really, if we're willing to step outside of our comfort zones just a little bit and we're willing to experiment and try different things, it can, there's so much growth that might happen on the other side of that, right? And so if we're willing to push ourselves a little bit, we might see a ton of growth, but also I think sometimes we can just get stuck in this hamster wheel of creating the content that we think is supposed to perform well because that's where we're hearing all the tips and advice. And I can give you all the tips and advice all day long, what we've seen work well on our Instagram account, what we've seen work well across many Instagram accounts for our students. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work for your brand, your audience, your ideal follower, like ditch it and do what is working, right? And so that's where it's really important to be looking at what's worked well. And your insights are obviously, like your Instagram insights are a big part of that and looking at what's performed well views-wise, but also look at what hasn't performed well as far as comments or DM replies or link clicks. Like look at different metrics instead of just views all the time. They can give you really good insight into what's actually engaging, encouraging further engagement beyond views and likes. I also wanted to mention one really practical way to come up with easy content ideas, and that is to simply look at your DMs. What questions have you been getting in your DMs lately? What questions are you getting from your followers or follow-up questions on things that you're sharing? Answer that in a new piece of content. That could be a really easy fast hack idea. I don't think that really made sense, but fast idea for coming up with a new piece of content and what you should create. The second thing I think that holds us back from being able to post this consistently is not planning a schedule ahead of time. And I am even guilty of this a lot of times, and it can be really hard. And so just backtracking a little bit, I have just noticed for myself and for a lot of people, when we show up the most consistently on Instagram, doesn't mean we have to post every day, but just showing up the most consistently over time, it's when we're working ahead and when we're planning a schedule out and we're saying like maybe a week in advance, all of the things we want to post that week, instead of just kind of flying by the seat of our pants and trying to come up with content on the fly. I have found it to be a huge game changer, even it comes to like even just plan a couple days in advance and have a few days of content planned out. I find that not only am I posting consistently, but I am also in my most creative mind space, and I'm able to create my best content when I'm planning ahead because I'm not feeling like I'm frantically trying to put something together so I have something to post for that day. And one of the most common questions we get when it comes to planning a schedule is, well, how often exactly should I be posting? What types of content should I be creating? Like, how do I even answer those questions of what I should be doing? We actually have a free Instagram sample posting schedules. Multiple of them are included in there based on what your Instagram goals are and then what season you're in your business and what capacity you have for Instagram. So we'll put a link right below this video to that freebie so you are able to snag that. It's just a free download where you can look at and kind of evaluate like how often should I be doing reels versus photo posts versus stories and lives and all the different things on Instagram. I know it can feel kind of overwhelming sometimes, so be sure to grab that if you want help in that area. And then once we figure out what content we're going to plan that week, our favorite planning tool right now is Plan, Plann. We'll also have a link to that in the description if you want to try it out. There is a completely free version that has a ton of features already in it without even having to pay a single penny, and we absolutely love it. I need to do an updated video tutorial on that app on our channel. We used to use another one and found it to be a little bit more glitchy, and this one just has more features for planning things on the go, which as a mom, now becoming a mom in the past year, I found that to be very, very handy in the ability to plan out things like stories on my phone instead of having to get onto my desktop. So we'll be sure to put a link to that below too if you're looking for a scheduling resource that allows you to basically plan out your posts, schedule them, and it will notify you each day when you need to go and post. The third thing that I think can hold us back from actually creating and posting consistently on Instagram is just simply not carving out the time to create content. And I know this sounds kind of like, well, duh, like I need to make sure that I have time to create content and to do this, but it feels like I don't have enough time. But I also want to challenge that and say that if it's a priority to you and a priority to you and your brand right now, you will make time for it. I have learned just over the past year, just how true that is and how busy my life has become. But yet, if something is important to me and I really want to make it a priority, like I will make time for it. And I know that, there's some seasons, even in my business, there's some seasons where it is not the biggest priority for me to focus on growing my Instagram really fast. And then there's some seasons where I can really pour into that and really up my strategy and make sure that I'm growing really fast on Instagram. And it's okay to have those go hand in hand with each other and to have different seasons where it's more of a priority and then seasons where it's not. And we talk about that in the Instagram posting schedules as well. And like there's just different seasons and also different capacities that we might have. Like we might have these big goals to grow on Instagram, but the reality might be that we have a 9-to-5 and we can't pour as much time into it as someone who works for themselves and then can post on Instagram more consistently, right? And that's totally okay. And there's ways you can get around that by, getting help or streamlining the things that you are doing, right? So you can show up more consistently. But at the end of the day, if you're not actually making the time to make this happen, like it's not going to happen. So you have to make it a priority. And kind of something more practical that I think can be really helpful is actually intentionally carving out time to work on Instagram, whether it's an hour a week or a few hours a month that you have to batch creating content like reels and photo posts and stories and things like that. So sometimes even putting it on your calendar and making it a non-negotiable hour that you are going to spend on your Instagram is a great way to make it a priority. The fourth thing that I think can hold us back from posting consistently, and this one might not also seem as obvious, but let me explain, and it's spending too much time scrolling and not creating. And this is kind of just a reality check for you to check in on yourself. Like, am I spending way too much time consuming content, looking at other creators, being inspired by them, maybe even, but almost to the point where it gets to the point where I'm then not motivated to be creating and create content because I'm too busy looking at what other people are doing. Is that something that maybe you're falling into, right? I know there's different times and times where I recognize like I've spent either way too much time today scrolling on my phone, and now I feel really unmotivated because I've started comparing myself and I feel like I'm not good enough. Or maybe I start creating content and I'm not creating content because it's fun to me, but I'm creating content because I'm seeing, I just saw 10 other people on Instagram doing similar content. And I'm just trying to copy it and see if I can create something that feels as good, right? And so I just really wanted to throw this in here because I think it's really hard to spend a lot of time consuming and then go and create something that's creative, that's true to you, that's genuine, that isn't just copying everything that you're seeing. And it's totally okay to be inspired by other creators. I know that, I have so many creators that inspire me to create awesome content. And I think that's also where we can put boundaries around the creators we do see in our feed and who inspires us to create, right? But making sure that scrolling, like spend more time creating and documenting and posting content than scrolling on your phone. And even when you are scrolling, be intentional about the way that you are scrolling. Like I mentioned, it's okay to mute people. It's okay to put boundaries around what you consume and what you decide is going to be served to you on social media. And be intentional with the way you engage on the account. Don't just mindlessly scroll. I know for me, a lot of this starts to seep in when I start to mindlessly scroll and I'm not really thinking, and I'm just scroll just because I want to waste time, right? And I'm not being intentional about engaging. I'm not commenting, DMing, replying to people. So basically, at the end of the day, just try not to fall into that trap of doing that. I know social media, it can just be so easy to do, to fall in. I mean, there's going to be days where you do that, right? And you're not going to be perfect. I know I certainly am not, but I think that's why it's important to almost ask ourselves, like, are we spending more time just scrolling on social media instead of working on our own content, staying in our lane, focusing on our brand and creating content for our brand that's going to ultimately lead us to growth, right? So hopefully that encouraged you to think about that, because I know it might not be something you even do like every single day, but there might be days where you do and you find that that's when you aren't able to show up consistently because it's taking away from the time you do have to create content for Instagram. The fifth thing that I think a lot of us fall into that holds us back from posting consistently is not recognizing that Instagram is a marathon, not a sprint. I think a lot of us can, when it comes to Instagram, want to, show up every single day for 14 days, for 2 whole weeks, and then we wonder, well, I only gained 5 followers. Like, what's going on? Like, I feel like I should have a lot more to show for what I've been posting. Or maybe you're posting every single day and a month goes by and you're still only getting 10 likes on every single one of your posts and you feel really defeated, right? But the thing to recognize when it comes to building specifically like a following on Instagram, to getting reach on Instagram, you have to post consistently over time. It's not something that in the long run, you can just show up for 3 hours one day and then ignore for an entire month and expect to see growth, okay? So it's something that it's almost like, I like to think about it like working out. You have to, work out consistently in little chunks, like 30 minutes or an hour every day over the course of several months, right? To start to see results. In the same way, Instagram is very similar. You have to show up, it's even like 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, or maybe 30 minutes a day over the course of several weeks or even months to start seeing growth. And I don't want that to discourage you. There's definitely ways to grow fast when it comes to things like Reels and to see quick wins with Reels. But in the long run, it does really take showing up consistently over time, especially if you want to grow like an engaged community, an engaged following. You don't want to just have followers for the sake of having followers. Like, you could post Reels all day long, or not even all day long. You could post Reels, like say you post 3 really great Reels in a month and that gains you 1,000 followers a month, okay? So in 6 months, you've got 6,000 followers, which is awesome, but you don't post any stories, you don't post any other photo posts that are engaging to your community, and those followers are not going to be engaged with your account. Your engagement rate is going to tank when it comes to the content that is pushed to your warm audience, things like stories, lives, photo posts, and in the long run, it's not going to serve you well. Your account's not going to serve your brand or your business very well at all. So I just want to encourage you, like, just recognize, again, Instagram is a marathon, and just show up. I think you'll be surprised, even if you haven't showed up for a while. Do a post sharing like, hey, like I'm committed to showing up for this community, showing up for you guys. It means that I probably won't be here every single day, but I want to make that a priority to me this year, this month, whatever that looks like. And I think you'd be surprised. We've had feedback from some of our students saying they decided to basically take it seriously again and to post. And they've gotten a lot of great feedback from the community that they had already built in the past. And ultimately, though, it does take showing up, right? It takes time to build that trust with your audience. If growing on Instagram is something that's important to you, then showing up is something that you'll have to make important over the course of a long period of time. But I promise, it is so worth it. When you show up for your people and when they are engaged with your account, it is so cool to see just the results that come from that, but also just the, like, you're able to serve your people so well with what you do, and it's so rewarding, and we just absolutely love it. If you haven't already downloaded that free Instagram posting schedules download, we'll have a link right below. Obviously, you can download it at any point. And basically just help you to get started in all of this. Like, okay, I'm ready to take Instagram seriously. I'm ready to stop spending way too much time scrolling and actually start creating and posting consistently. You'll have basically it's an outline of different schedules. So you can pick the schedule that works best for you and where you're at, and it will tell you exactly how many reels to post, how many photo posts to post, how often to show up on stories, if you should do any lives and how often, all of those things. So we're so excited for you to grab that. If you haven't already, to give this video a thumbs up if it was really helpful for you, and also hit subscribe. We upload a new video every single Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So if you want new content when it comes to especially growing on Instagram, we're gonna be sharing a lot about that in the next couple of months. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single video that comes out. And as always, we're here for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. We'd love to chat with you, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.